I hope your Friday's off to a good start. We're going to update you on the tropics, and my first view is down here at the ocean front. And this was right around 8 o'clock in the morning on Friday that you're looking at this. You can see the wave action picking up. It's not crazy out there yet. Farther down the coastline as you get into North Carolina, some rain showers there, but we started off basically dry across most of Hampton Roads. Things are changing, though. Rain is going to overtake the region. The winds are going to increase, and other impacts felt typically with tropical storms are going to be felt across Hampton Roads. So we do have a tropical storm warning. Now, the question is, will the system coming through, will it actually be a tropical storm? Will it be a subtropical storm? Will it be extratropical? That remains to be seen. But regardless of what type of formation it has, all the models are calling for intensification, and these conditions are going to be similar with all of the scenarios basically playing out with a lot of wind, some very heavy rain in some spots, and then tidal flooding issues as well as we go late tonight and into Saturday. Winds have started to pick up a little bit. We're getting more gusts. It still hasn't been too bad, but as we go through the day, rain moves in and spreads north. Right now we're seeing winds, again, not too terribly bad, but the winds are going to increase. So rain spreads up from North Carolina. Winds increase, especially late afternoon through the evening and overnight. And then moderate to major tidal flooding is going to be possible on Saturday. Now, the center is actually located still down to the south. You'll notice there's a frontal boundary associated with it, actually a couple. And with this, again, this is not a tropical system. Tropical systems don't have fronts associated with them. This is still extratropical. It may become a subtropical system. You see it is forecast to strengthen, and this is the 8 o'clock update from the Hurricane Center. Maximum winds right now at about 50, gusting to 65. By 2 o'clock, it's expected to gain a little more strength and have 60-mile-per-hour winds, about the same as it makes its run towards the Carolina coastline later as we go through the early morning hours tomorrow and into the afternoon. It goes across eastern North Carolina and then up through our area. The center will. Now, the heavier rain is still north of it, so the rain is going to arrive before the center does. That center tracks through, and then eventually we'll see the wind shift and the water will blow back out. But ahead of that, with the winds coming in and gaining strength from the east and the northeast, that's why our tide levels in the Chesapeake Bay and along the coast are going to be an issue. Now, in general, for North Carolina, we're looking at, again, the rain has already started this morning, but it's going to become more intense later today and then into tonight and early Saturday. Winds 25 to 45 miles per hour, gusting to 60. Rainfall amounts generally 2 to 5 inches, depending on where exactly the heaviest rain sets up. There could be some locally higher amounts, minor to moderate tidal flooding, and overall impacts pretty moderate. As we take a look across Southside Hampton Roads and the peninsula, we're looking more at the rain really coming in during the afternoon through Saturday. 20 to 40 mile per hour winds gusting close to 50, maybe a little bit higher than that. And I'll show you one of the models here in a moment. Rain widespread 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 4, 4.5 inches. There will be some locally higher amounts potentially as well. Here's the line I want you to see, though, with the tides. Moderate to major tidal flooding thanks to those stronger east winds and northeast winds pushing the water into the bay. Overall impact still considered to be moderate with this system coming through. Now, I mentioned the rainfall, generally say 2 to 4 inland, 3 to 4 for much of the metro, and some locally higher amounts possible. We are going to see that rain coming in and becoming more intense later today. This is 2:45 in the afternoon. You see moderate rain, light to moderate rain with heavier pockets starting to work up. More of that coming later tonight. Look at that heavy rain through the evening and overnight. And then early tomorrow, there starts to be some breaks here and there, but additional heavy rain coming through as that low gets closer to us. Here comes the low Saturday during the day, and then it pushes through, the winds eventually shifting to the south, and that's when the tides should start to improve for Sewell's Point. We're still looking at potential for major tidal flooding for some areas a little farther north. Look at how things dry out, though, for Sunday. Now, the wind field, again, shows the increasing winds as we go through the afternoon. Could see some winds gusting around Hampton, 43 miles per hour, 39 at Virginia Beach. Again, the winds coming in from the east and the northeast. So this is pushing water into the lower part of the Chesapeake Bay. As we go through the overnight, Here we have the potential for winds gusting close to 51 or so around Virginia Beach. Could see some gusts in the upper 40s, Matthews and Hampton. And again, this is one model. This is the European model. Still winds coming in from the east and the northeast. So the water really pushing into the bay. That's why we're worried about that tidal flooding with that high tide early Saturday morning pre-sunrise. And then during the afternoon as we go along, we're still looking at a southeasterly component through 1 o'clock. And then the winds shift around. Once those winds shift around, the water starts pushing back out. So I'm hopeful the late afternoon high tide at Sewell's Point may be a little lower than what we see with the morning high tide, but it is something we're going to be watching. And again, if it continues those east winds a bit longer, we could have a second round of very high water coming in during the afternoon Saturday. As far as the outlook and the potential, you can see all these areas colored in red. That's moderate tidal flooding expected. That includes right around Hampton Roads officially at Sewell's Point, the different tide level monitors along the Elizabeth River, at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, also at Kiptopeak up towards the Middle Peninsula. For the Yorktown area along the York, major tidal flooding. Same thing at the Lynn Haven Inlet. So we do have that potential for a little bit more. Now let's take a look at the projections and the forecast here. With the high tide Saturday morning, this is the early morning one before sunrise, moderate flooding, 6.4 feet. As we go through the afternoon, if we get that wind shift, levels should come down a little bit. The winds don't shift around as much. We could see this back up in that 6.5-ish area, something like that. But right now, it looks like the winds are going to shift around, so that should lower it a little bit. Still, moderate tidal flooding for Sewell's Point. The high tide this afternoon, minor tidal flooding expected. So the worst of the high tides coming pre-sunrise tomorrow for Hampton Roads, and then still moderate later in the day. For Yorktown, minor flooding with the high tide this afternoon. Major tidal flooding potentially for Saturday, both the morning and afternoon high tide. Things improve on Sunday. At Duck Pier, minor tidal flooding today. And then depending on the wind field, we may see some improvements tomorrow. That's the current forecast. But with the wind shifting, we're going to be watching the sound side as well. Now, the forecast again, generally today, we're going to see skies obviously cloudy, rain spreading up from the south. It becomes windy across Hampton Roads. Lows tonight back down around 68. Rain heavy at times, very windy. Winds gusting over 50 miles per hour. And then winds tomorrow morning in the upper 40s to near 50. But things should improve later on. Tidal flooding will be the issue. There's so much to keep an eye to. Improvements coming later on Sunday. Check back with 13 News Now for updates on the tropics and for all of our weather.